Welcome to week 2. So for this week, we're going to cover a couple different topics. The first one here is the spectrum of sexual violence. So these next few slides go into the definition of sexual violence and in relation to the spectrum which we're going to talk about. So I really want you to take these next couple of slides labeled Sexual Violence Defined and read through them. So this one is criminal sexual conduct, the elements that make it criminal sexual conduct. So we got contact versus penetration, which we'll get into a little bit more. The severity and type of force that is used, the ages of the victim and the offender, and whether or not the victim is a minor by the state of Minnesota, if the offender is a family person or a power or position, authority over them, for example, a doctor, a recruiter, a lawyer, or maybe they're a vulnerable adult, that person of power over them. Multiple acts or multiple perpetrators, if the offender is in a professional position that precludes consensual sexual activity, the victim's ability to give consent. This next one talks about touch and penetration, like I had previously mentioned that we would talk about. Touching of an intimate parts or touching of intimate parts over clothing with sexual or aggressive intent. Penetration is sexual intercourse, oral intercourse, anal intercourse, or any slight intrusion into the genital or anal openings of either the victim or perpetrator using any body part or object through force or coercion. Just to dig into that one, because it is a lot. If a perpetrator was to use, say, a beer bottle, and penetrate the victim with that in their genitalia or their anal, that is considered penetration. So in week 1, we talked about oppression, racism, sexism, classism, all that. So if you look at this continuum, we got all those right in the middle. Then we're moving into gender violence normalized, to sexist jokes, to flashing, to incest, child rape, marital rape, and rape and murder. It all kind of starts in the middle and is working its way out. As far as how sexual violence is continued throughout society and throughout acts, really. Over the course of the next 3 slides, we're going to talk about the physical, emotional, and social impacts of sexual violence on a victim. And if you have sexual violence in your history, some of these might be very hard to hear or to process. So I urge you to take your time through these next couple of slides and really look at the impact it has on a person. So this one talks about non-stranger sexual assault. This is when the sexual violence is committed by someone that the victim knows, whether it's an acquaintance, someone they might know but they don't necessarily interact with, coworkers, friends of the family, a neighbor, or a previous or current intimate partner. The question is not who did this, but how was force or coercion used. Most often, perpetrators and offenders plan the assault in advance. So they already have it set, when they're going to do it, where they're going to do it, how they're going to do it. So that's just kind of something to think about. looking at this pie graph, you're going to see that 82% of sexual assault victims know their perpetrator. So again, whether it's the acquaintance, coworker, friend, family of friend, and only 18% are stranger sexual assaults. You're seeing here the breakdown of relationships between offenders and victims. For the most part, it looks, somewhat even. Obviously, other relatives is just a little bit more. Same with acquaintances. So that just goes to show you, like, the relationships and sexual violence incidents, the relationships between the offender and victims. So now we're looking into stranger sexual assault. This may be, this is obviously a person that you don't know, or the victim doesn't know. Happens in a variety of settings, either at night or during the day. Again, is the least common form of sexual violence. And the perpetrators will often plan their assault in advance, such as stalking the victim, plan to rape the victim at a certain time, and may plan to have sex forcibly if necessary. So if we're looking at this may be a person has a similar routine driving or walking to work. Maybe a certain routine of a college student walking into class. They become familiar with the person's routine. So now we're going to just look a little in depth to indecent exposure. Remember just to take some self-care breaks if this is a little intense. Pause the video, walk around the room, go for a little walk, and come back to this. Go to get a drink of water, or maybe just listen to some awesome music. So indecent exposure, the definition is exposing sexual body parts to another person. It's usually a stranger when it's unwanted or not asked for. This does not include unwanted touching or sexual contact. So I just think of, if you've seen the movie Super Troopers, they have a scene in where the officer is trying to hit on the female officer and he's exposing his male parts. That's indecent exposure. The lady officer wasn't asking for it. Just a scene I think of when I hear indecent exposure. So some dynamics to indecent exposure. They may expose in a public place. They may lure victims to a private place or and exposing quickly, may expose and masturbate, may be a part of an exposer's cycle of sexual abuse or stalking behavior. This means that they may use it as a tool to stalk people, to maybe constantly expose themselves to a person, or going out of their way to do it, essentially. Now into female genital mutilation. So female genital mutilation is the removal of external female genitalia
to decrease female
or
sexual pleasure,
injury
desire,
to the female genital
to
organs.
maintain
common
chastity until
type
marriage,
of removal is the clitoris,
to maintain
or the
faithfulness
labia
during
minora.
marriage, increase male
This is
sexual
usually
pleasure,
performed with crude instruments and without
initiation
to womanhood.
Could you just imagine? I can't
If
imagine.
you're practiced by various religions
or
and
watch
in
it, you will see this happen
countries.
when a handmaid
So female genital mutilation
identifies
is
as
the
a lesbian.
removal of external
And
female genitalia
she
or injury to the female genital organs.
goes against
most common
the
type of removal is
commander
the
she was
clitoris
with,
or the
family
labia
she was
minora.
with. And they decide
This is usually
to cut
performed
off
with
her
crude
clitoris
instruments
and
and
without
punishment.
anesthesia.
Because
Because they know
Could you
she's
just
lesbian.
I can't imagine.
So
Practiced by
just
various
as
religions.
an example
and
to this
in
happening, it
multiple
is seen in
different
The Handmaid's
countries.
Tale.
So
here you'll
female
see some of the
genital
physical
mutilation
health
is
concerns.
the removal of
course, there's always
external
immediate
female
health concerns,
genitalia
severe bleeding,
or
severe pain,
injury to the
injury
female
to
genital organs.
tissue
most
around the
common
area
type of
that they have
removal is
removed.
the clitoris
Also,
or the
infection,
labia minora.
So looking into long-term health
This is
concerns,
usually performed with
sexual
crude
dysfunction,
instruments
painful
and without
intercourse,
anesthesia.
and difficulty
just
bearing
imagine.
children.
Could you just imagine?
I
But
can't
also
imagine. Long-term effect,
Practiced by various religions and
constantly getting
in
infections,
multiple different
and
countries.
how dangerous that can be for your health.
So female genital mutilation is the
So,
removal of external
Eliminating this
female
practice,
genitalia
must be really
or
taken
injury to the female
with
genital organs.
cultural
Most
sensitivity
common
and
type of
social
removal
sensitivity.
is the clitoris
And
or the
going into the
labia
second
minora.
point here,
We're never to assume
This is
usually performed
that
with
a woman
crude
that
instruments
has immigrated
and without
from another
anesthesia
country
has
has
experienced.
experienced,
Could you just imagine?
female
Genital
I can't
mutilation. Practiced by various religions and in multiple different countries.
Moving
So
on, once
female
again,
genital
we're looking
mutilation
at
is the
sexual
removal
violence
of
by
external
multiple
female
perpetrators.
genitalia or
So this
injury to the
is
female
when
genital
there is
organs.
two or
Most
more
common
people participating
type
in
of
the assault of
removal
one
is the
person.
clitoris or the
Uh,
labia minora.
At one time, an episode
This is
by
usually
multiple
performed with
perpetrators
crude
at the same
instruments and without anesthesia.
You just imagine.
And then
Could you just imagine?
strangers,
I can't imagine. They may be strangers or they
practiced
may
by
be
various
acquaintances.
religions.
So when
and
we look
in
at this
multiple different
by multiple
countries.
perpetrators, you might be thinking of
So
gang
female
rape,
genital mutilation is
10,
the
15
removal of external
guys
female
raping a young
genitalia
girl,
or
initiating them
injury to the
into
female genital
gang.
organs. Most common
But this
type
can
of
also be
removal
seen,
is
you know,
the
outside of the realm
clitoris
of gang rape.
or the labia minora.
You can see it.
This is usually performed with crude instruments
in the movie
and without
Roll, Run,
anesthesia.
Roll, they
just
train the girls
Could you
so
just
one
imagine?
after another.
I can't imagine.
Um,
Practiced by various
that is definitely
religions
seen
and
as,
in multiple different
perpetrators.
countries.
So when it comes to
So
multiple
female
perpetrators,
genital
there's some
mutilation
dynamics
is
we're
the
gonna see
removal
here.
of external female
Like in any
genitalia
group, there's leaders and
or
there's followers.
injury to the female genital
Leaders, the
organs.
person who
Most
generally
common
type
type
of
of
made the
removal
decision
is
to commit the
the
sexual
clitoris
violence.
or the labia
Reluctant
minora.
participants.
This is
Peer
usually
pressure.
performed with crude instruments and
motivation
without anesthesia.
to
just imagine. Could you just imagine?
do
I
the
can't
sexual
imagine.
act.
Practiced by
that they may
various
not want
religions
to. We
and
all know what peer
in
pressure
multiple
is.
different
Maybe
countries.
for the most part, we've probably dealt with it in some form or
So
another.
female genital
then
mutilation is the
perpetrators
removal
often
of
seek out a
external
very
female
vulnerable
genitalia or injury
Alright,
to the
continuing
female
with
genital
dynamics,
organs. Most common
when it comes
type
to
of removal
multiple
is the
perpetrators.
clitoris
Additional
or the labia minora.
abusive behaviors.
This is
are more
usually
likely to
performed with
concern,
crude instruments
occur
and
than
without
with a single
anesthesia.
perpetrator.
You just imagine.
Could you just
Insults,
imagine?
of course,
I can't imagine.
practiced by
Fellatio,
various
pulling,
religions
biting, burning
and
breasts,
in multiple
urinating
different
on
countries.
the victim, putting semen on the victim's
So
body,
female
and
genital
manual
mutilation is
masturbation.
the removal
These
of
are just some of the
external
things that have
female
been reported
genitalia
in
or injury to the
multiple
female
perpetrators.
genital organs. Most common
cases.
type
So
of removal
it's
is
just
the
a short
clitoris
list. Maybe
or the
not all of
labia
them have been
minora.
reported,
but you're more likely
This is
to
usually
see these things.
performed with crude instruments and without
So as
anesthesia.
you can see here,
you just imagine. Could you just
essentially
imagine?
what this
I can't
slide is saying is that
practiced
gang
by
rape
various
is often
religions
a weapon of war.
and in
It's
multiple
used
different
as a
countries.
torture tactic, a scare tactic, and
So female
refugee
genital
women
mutilation
are
is the
more
removal
particularly
of
vulnerable,
external female
to
genitalia
this happening.
or injury to the female genital organs. Most common type of removal
Sexual
is
violence
the
and
clitoris
technology.
or the labia
Welcome
minora.
to current day.
This is usually performed with
So
crude
how
instruments
do
and without
perpetrators,
anesthesia. You just
reach their
imagine.
victims
Could
with
you just
technology?
imagine? I
Well,
can't
for
imagine.
one, they are able
Practiced
to
by
groom and
various
solicit.
religions
Grooming
and
as
in multiple
talking to
different
them
countries.
maybe over a period of time.
So female
telling that
genital
information is
mutilation
okay,
is
it's
the
okay to do
removal
these
of
things,
external female genitalia
essentially
or
more or
injury
less
to the
talking
female
them into
genital
it,
organs. Most common
without
type of removal
explicitly
is
saying,
the clitoris
this is what I want you to
or
do.
the labia minora.
Receiving unwanted sexual images.
This is usually performed with crude instruments
non-consensual
and
pornography,
without
revenge
anesthesia.
porn, harassment,
Just
bullying,
imagine.
sexual
Could you just
harassment,
imagine? I can't
pornography, and
imagine. Practiced by
stalking.
various religions and in multiple different countries. So female genital mutilation is the removal of external female genitalia or injury to the female genital organs. Most common type of removal is the clitoris or the labia minora. This is usually performed with crude instruments and without anesthesia. You just imagine. Could you just imagine? I can't imagine. Practiced by various religions and in multiple different countries. So female genital mutilation is the removal of external female genitalia.
So here we have some stats
injury to the
about
female genital organs.
technology,
most
and
common
sexual violence.
type of removal
So
is
1 in
the
25
clitoris
youth receive
or the
aggressive
labia minora.
sexual solicitations that
This is
include
usually
attempts to
performed with
contact
crude
youth
instruments
offline.
and without anesthesia.
1 in
Just
25
imagine.
youth were
Could you just
solicited to
imagine?
take sexual
I can't
pictures of
imagine.
themselves. 1 in
Practiced by
25 youth
various
said they were
religions
upset or
and
distressed
in
from the
multiple different
solicitation.
countries.
These are just some of
So
the
female
statistics on
genital
these, but I
mutilation
think they are
is
the
the
most
removal of
important
external
to
female
understand that
genitalia
people,
or injury
adults,
to the female genital organs.
are reaching out
most
to
common
children
type of
online
removal is the
to get to meet
clitoris
them and do
or the labia
have
minora.
some
This is
form
usually
of sexual
performed with
relationship.
crude instruments and without
Sending
anesthesia.
pictures.
You just
We
imagine.
all
Could you
have
just
heard the
imagine?
term sexting.
I can't imagine.
So that's where
Practiced
that
by
comes into
various
play.
religions and in
Some more
multiple
statistics
different
because we love
countries.
numbers. We love it. 9% of youth
So
ages
female
10 to
genital
17 who used the
mutilation
internet
is the
reported being
removal of
harassed
external
online in the
female
past year.
genitalia or
1/3 of those
injury
targeted
to the
youth felt
female
embarrassed or
genital
threatened
organs.
by
Most common
what was put on the
type of
internet.
removal is the
And
clitoris
honestly,
or the labia minora.
I would be embarrassed too.
This is
Wouldn't you?
usually performed with crude instruments and without
Sexting.
anesthesia.
Here we go,
You
people.
just imagine. Could you just
It's
imagine?
the act of
I can't
sending
imagine.
sexually explicit
Practiced
messages
by
or
various
photos
religions
electronically,
and in
primarily
multiple
between
different
cell
countries.
phones. Sexting, texting.
So female
Uh,
genital mutilation is the
data
removal of
varies with
external
this.
female genitalia
Just
or
due to the
injury to the
reports and
female
how this
genital
data is
organs. Most common
so
type of
69%
removal is
sent the
the
message to a
clitoris
boyfriend or girlfriend,
or the labia
39
minora.
sexted someone they were dating,
This is
30%
usually performed with
sexted to
crude
someone they
instruments
wanted to date.
and without anesthesia.
You
just imagine. Could you just
and
imagine?
you can find more
I can't
information
imagine.
just about
Practiced
about
by
this.
various religions
So I definitely
and in
would suggest
multiple
maybe
different countries.
looking into sexting just a little bit more.
So
on
female
your type.
genital mutilation is the removal of external female genitalia or injury to the female genital
Sexual assault
organs.
within
Most
prisons.
common type
You know
of
this
removal
happens.
is
You
the
hear movies,
clitoris
you hear the
or the
comments,
labia
don't drop the
minora.
soap.
This is usually
So we're
performed
just
with
gonna jump
crude
right into this,
instruments
guys.
and without
And
anesthesia.
hopefully it will
imagine.
lead to
Could
a
you
great
just
discussion
imagine?
in the end.
I can't imagine. Practiced by
So,
various
just like
religions
I was saying in the
and
previous
in
one,
multiple
you probably
different
heard, don't drop the soap
countries.
while you're in prison.
So female
So why are these kind of jokes
mutilation is
acceptable?
the removal of external
society feels
female
that inmates
genitalia
get what they
or
deserved,
injury
or
to
it
the
may
female
deter them
genital
from committing
organs.
crimes in the
Most
future.
common type of removal is the
bottom
clitoris
line is no one
or the
deserves to be
labia
sexually
minora.
assaulted, whether they are in prison or
This is
not.
usually performed with crude instruments and without anesthesia.
I really want you to read
just
over these
imagine.
next
Could you just
couple of
imagine?
slides.
I can't imagine.
Labeled prevalence.
Practiced by various religions
and please,
and in multiple different countries.
just, look at these numbers.
So female genital
and
mutilation
look
is
at the laws
removal of
regarding,
external female
prison rape,
genitalia
and
or
you will have
injury
some
to the
questions on your
female
worksheet.
genital organs. Most common type of removal is the clitoris
Dynamics.
or the labia minora.
So obviously
This is usually performed with crude instruments and
gay,
without
transgender,
anesthesia.
and young men
Could you
will
just
are at
imagine?
increased
Could you just
risk for
imagine?
sexual violence when
I
they're in
can't imagine.
prison.
Practiced by various religions
Prisoners incarcerated
and
for the first
in
time
multiple
in
different
non-violent offenses
countries.
are also at an increased risk.
So female
may be the
genital
people that are
mutilation
just
is
sitting to the
the
sideline
removal
wanting
of
to serve their
external
sentence and
female
not participating
genitalia
with,
or
in
injury
other
to the
activities with
female
prisoners.
genital organs. Most common
so
type of removal is the clitoris
people of any sexual
or the labia
orientation
minora.
can commit sexual violence.
This is usually performed with
but
crude
most men who
instruments
sexually
and
assault
without
other
anesthesia.
men identify as
Could you just
heterosexual.
imagine? Could you just imagine?
Sexual
I
violence
can't imagine.
in prison is
Practiced by
about power
various
control,
religions
just like any other form of
and
sexual
in
violence
multiple different
in
countries.
or outside of prison. Staff
So
on
female
inmate
genital
abuse
mutilation is
includes
the
offensive
removal of
language,
external
touching
female
inmates' breasts and
genitalia
genitals when conducting
or
searches,
injury to the female
staff
genital
watching
organs.
inmates while they're naked,
Most common
for example,
type
in
of
showers,
removal is the
and
clitoris
sexual assault.
or the labia minora. This is usually performed with crude instruments and without anesthesia.
These two
Could you
questions
just
here
imagine? Could you
we
just
will
imagine?
discuss
I can't imagine.
further
Practiced by various religions
on our conference
and
call and on
in
the worksheet.
multiple different countries.
Just because it goes
So
into
female
policy and
genital
procedures.
mutilation is
So
the removal of
victims prison
external
rape are
female
treated like any other
genitalia
victim,
or
and how we
injury
respond
to the
them
female genital
calls in the
organs.
jail or
Most
prison.
common type of removal is the clitoris
It's,
or the
it's
labia
definitely
minora.
a different process. So we will.
This is
go over
usually
that.
performed with crude instruments and without
Sexual
anesthesia.
exploitation
Could you just imagine?
by
Could you just imagine?
professionals.
I can't imagine.
What are you talking
Practiced by various
about? Professionals
religions
don't do these kind of
and
things.
in multiple different countries.
Definition. So this is any
So female
inappropriate
genital
sexual
mutilation
actions or
is
words
the
by
removal of
professionals or
external
volunteers
female
within the helping
genitalia
context,
or injury to
same
the female
here.
genital organs. Most
and
common
support within reach.
type of removal
This
is
may include
the
counselors,
clitoris
psychologists, social workers,
or the labia
therapists, healthcare
minora.
professionals, clergy, lawyers, law
This is usually
enforcement
performed with
officers,
crude
advocates,
instruments
educators,
and without
and public
anesthesia.
health workers.
Could you just imagine? Could you just
Essentially,
imagine?
anyone in
I
a
can't
position of
power,
power
practiced by various
or
religions
influence
and
over the
in
person.
multiple different countries.
So dynamics when it comes to
So female
professional
genital
sexual violence.
mutilation is the
So,
removal of
Helping
external
professionals,
female
if you think of a doctor,
genitalia
you think of
or
them
injury to the
as
female
a trusting
genital
person.
organs. Most common type of removal is the clitoris
subtle actions
or the labia minora.
Such as
This is
jokes
usually
or
performed with
looking at
crude
a client in a
instruments
way that makes
and
them
without
feel
anesthesia.
uncomfortable,
Could you just
or
imagine? Could you just
discussing
imagine?
the sex life
I can't
of
imagine.
the client.
Practiced by various
These are
religions
just
and in multiple
just
different
some of the
countries.
things. Other things include,
So female
giving
genital
the client a special
mutilation
status,
is
scheduling
the
after
removal
hours,
of
charging
external
fees,
female genitalia or
doing things for
injury
a
to the
client that
female
they
genital
normally wouldn't
organs.
do.
Most
That
common
most likely they don't
type
do
of
for any other
removal
client.
is the clitoris
Not
or the labia
all
minora.
professionals are cited in the criminal sexual
This is
conduct
usually
statutes
performed
as
with crude
prohibited
instruments
from engaging in
and
sexual
without
activity with
anesthesia.
patients or
Could you
clients.
just imagine? Could you just imagine?
However,
I can't
their
imagine.
professional licensure
Practiced by
may
various religions
revoke their
and
license
in multiple different countries.
if it's against their policies.
So female
These are a list of
genital
options for
mutilation
victims.
is
So they can
the
file a
removal of
complaint,
external
they can do a
female
civil suit,
genitalia
They can
or injury
report
to the
state or
female
county
genital
authorities,
organs.
adult
Most
protection,
common
complain to
type
the
of
ethics
removal is
committee,
the
make a
clitoris
licensure
or the
registration
labia
complaint.
minora.
and
This is
notify
usually
the
performed with
agency's
crude
director,
instruments
supervisor,
and
or
without
church
anesthesia.
hierarchy.
Could you just imagine? Could you just imagine?
How
I can't
survivors have the right to take
practiced by
action
various religions
if it's wrong.
and in multiple different countries. So, female genital mutilation is the removal of external female genitalia or injury to the female genital organs. Most common
sit down, relax,
type of removal is
enjoy
the
the ride.
clitoris or the labia minora. This is usually performed with crude instruments and without anesthesia. Could you just imagine? Could you just imagine? I can't imagine. Practiced by various religions and in multiple different countries. So, female genital mutilation is the removal of external female genitalia or injury to the female genital organs. Most common type of removal is the clitoris or the labia minora. This is usually performed with crude instruments and without anesthesia. Could you just imagine? Could you just imagine? I can't imagine.
Types of stalking.
Practiced by various religions
types.
and in multiple different countries.
So this is 60% of stalking
So,
cases.
female genital
includes all
mutilation is
cases
the
arising
removal
from
of
previous personal
external female
relationships,
genitalia or
often an
injury
extension
to
of
the
previous
female
pattern of
genital
domestic
organs.
violence.
Most
likely
common
stalking
type of removal is
to end in
the
murder.
clitoris or the labia
Love
minora.
obsession. Stalkers
This is
and victims
usually
are casual
performed with crude
acquaintances,
instruments
or even
and
complete
without
strangers.
anesthesia.
These
Could you
stalkers
just
have become so
imagine? Could you just
focused on
imagine?
establishing
I can't
a
imagine.
personal relationship with
Practiced
their
by
victim,
various religions,
so they often
and in
invent detailed
multiple different
fantasies of a
countries.
non-existent relationship.
So, female
Erotomania.
genital mutilation is the
This is less
removal of
than
external
10% of stalking
female
cases.
genitalia
These stalkers
or
delude themselves
injury
into
to the
believing
female
that
genital organs.
there is a personal
Most
relationship that
common
already exists
type of removal is the
between themselves
clitoris
and the victim.
or the
Target
labia
is
minora.
sometimes a public figure or
This is
celebrity.
usually performed with crude
Vengeance,
instruments
terrorism.
and without
These
anesthesia.
stalkers do
Could you
not
just
seek a
imagine?
personal
Could you just
relationship.
imagine? I can't imagine.
It's their
Practiced by
reasoning
various
to do
religions
this
and
to
in multiple different
get
countries.
a response.
So, female genital
or change of behavior
mutilation
from their
is
victims.
the removal of
This
external
is
female
Vengeance is the
genitalia
prime motive,
or
which the stalker,
injury to the
stalker
female
only
genital
seeks
organs.
to punish their
Most
victim
common
for some
type of
wrong
removal
they
is
perceive
the
that the victim has
clitoris
done.
or the labia minora.
Cyberstalking, the use
This
of
is usually
internet, email,
performed
or
with crude
telecommunications
instruments and
technologies
without
to harass,
anesthesia.
stalk another
Could you
person.
just imagine? Could you just imagine? I can't imagine. Practiced by various religions and in multiple different
So there are
countries.
definitely some challenges when reporting to law enforcement.
So, female genital
stalking,
mutilation
you
is
may not
the
have,
removal of
exact
external
100%
female genitalia or
But law
injury
enforcement
to the
needs to know
female
the full
genital
context
organs. Most
of why this incident
common
was frightening.
type of removal is the
you know,
clitoris or
If
the
there
labia
were previous
minora.
convictions of domestic violence against
This is
the
usually
offender, if
performed
they
with
know who
crude
is stalking
instruments
them,
and
that's
without
really important.
anesthesia. Could you just imagine?
Keep
Could
a
you just
stalking
imagine?
incident
I
log,
can't imagine.
just to
Practiced by
this
various
happened this date,
religions
this happened this
and
date,
in multiple
and you can kind
different
of put
countries.
things in perspective for them. Preserve messages,
So,
caller
female
ID,
genital mutilation is the
if the
removal
person
of
is calling
external
you
female
or
genitalia
messaging you.
or
And
injury to the
record any
female
witnesses.
genital
So
organs.
if your neighbor,
Most common
for example,
type
if
of
someone
removal
saw
is the
their
clitoris
neighbor
or the labia minora.
was outside during that time,
This is
and
usually
the neighbor saw
performed with
someone
crude
following them.
instruments
So getting that
and without
information from the
anesthesia.
neighbor.
Could you just imagine? Could you just imagine?
Challenges
I
with
can't
prosecution.
So
this
practiced
can be
by various
stalking
religions
can be very
and in
difficult to
multiple
prove
different countries.
because the prosecutor has to prove that the victim felt frightened,
So, female
threatened,
genital
oppressed,
mutilation is
persecuted, or
the
intimidated.
removal of external female genitalia
Anonymous,
or
if
injury to the female
you don't know
genital
who it
organs.
is, or
Most common
someone's
type of
leaving you
removal
items
is
at
the
work,
clitoris
or items
or
on
the
your
labia
windshield
minora.
of your vehicle, or phone
This
calls
is
when no one's
usually
talking,
performed with
no
crude
caller ID,
instruments
shows a
and
private
without
number.
anesthesia. Could you just imagine?
It's going to be
Could you just imagine?
difficult to
I
make those
can't imagine.
connections to the offender.
Practiced by various religions and
so
in
the proof
multiple
beyond a
different
reasonable doubt
countries.
means proof based on evidence.
So female
not a
genital
suspicion or
mutilation
hunch.
is the
So that's
removal
really
of
where evidence
external
is
female
going to be
genitalia
here.
or injury to the female
So when an
genital
anonymous
organs.
activities occur,
Most
it
common
can be difficult for
type of
police or
removal
prosecutor
is the
to tie
clitoris
them
or the
tied to
labia
the
minora.
offender and the victim.
This is usually
To prove
performed with
a
crude
pattern of
instruments
harassment or
and
stalking,
without anesthesia.
Each separate
Could you
act
just
by the
imagine?
offender
Could
must
you
be
just
proven
imagine?
beyond a
I
reasonable
can't
doubt.
Practiced by
So
various
this, again,
religions
this is really why
and
it's hard
in
to
multiple
prosecute
different
stalking
countries.
cases. But there are cases that have been
So
prosecuted.
female genital mutilation is the
So when there's a
removal of
victim
external
of stalking,
female genitalia
we encourage
or
them
injury to the female
you know,
genital organs. Most common
come to
type of removal
make a
is
safety plan,
the clitoris
essentially.
or the labia minora.
Know where their police
This is
stations
usually
are.
performed with crude
Maybe
instruments
a
and
police
without
or an
anesthesia.
area
Could you
in
just
town
imagine?
that
Could you just imagine?
police are
I
frequent
can't
to
imagine.
sit.
Practiced by
and
various
maybe watch
religions
traffic, that kind
and
of thing.
in multiple different countries.
Just know those areas. Have a family
So
or
female
friend.
genital mutilation is the removal of external female
where they're
genitalia
at, your closest friend,
or
your closest
injury
neighbor
to the female genital
that
organs.
you could go to.
Most common
Domestic
type
violence
of removal
shelters,
is
churches,
the
and
clitoris
public areas.
or the labia minora.
Just for an example, we
This
got
is
the
usually
Facebook
performed
swaps.
with crude instruments
And Target
and
has
without
a safe
anesthesia.
pickup location
Could you
that
just
is
imagine?
lighted at
Could
all
you just
times.
imagine? I can't imagine. Practiced
And
by
is
various
often
religions
observed
and in
law
multiple
enforcement.
different countries. So female genital mutilation is the removal of external female genitalia or injury to the female genital organs. Most common type of removal is the clitoris or the labia minora. This is usually performed with crude instruments and without anesthesia. Could you just imagine? Could you just imagine? I can't imagine. Practiced by various religions and in multiple different countries. So female genital mutilation is the removal of external female genitalia or injury to the female genital organs. Most common type of removal is the clitoris or the labia minora. This is usually performed with crude instruments and without anesthesia. Could you just imagine? Could you just imagine? I can't imagine. Practiced by various religions and in multiple different countries. So female genital mutilation is the removal of external female genitalia or injury to the female genital organs. Most common type of removal is the clitoris or the labia minora.
Well, I lied.
This is usually performed
One
with
more.
crude instruments
One more.
and without anesthesia.
All right, sexual
Could you just
harassment.
imagine? Could you just imagine?
So sexual
I can't
harassment
imagine.
is defined as the unwelcome
Practiced by various
sexual
religions
advances, requested
and in
requests
multiple
for sexual
different
behaviors
countries.
and other verbal and physical conduct
So
of a
female
sexual nature
genital
in which
mutilation is the
submission
removal of external
or
female
rejection
genitalia
of,
or
such as
injury
conduct,
to the female
conduct
genital
explicitly
organs.
or implicitly
Most
affects the
common
areas
type of
individuals work,
removal
school
is the
performance, or
clitoris
creates
or the
intimidating,
labia
hostile,
minora.
or offensive work or school
This
environment.
is usually performed with crude instruments
you know,
and without anesthesia.
not even looking
Could you
into
just imagine? Could you just imagine?
to school
I
or
can't
work.
imagine.
You know, when
Practiced
you're out
by
in
various
public,
religions
when you're
and
at bars,
in
when you're at
multiple different
restaurants,
countries.
when you're at the park, anything unwanted.
So female genital
in forms of
mutilation
sexual
is
advances
the removal
is
of
considered sexual
external
harassment.
female genitalia
Sexual harassment
or
is
injury
not
to the
typically
female
a violation
genital organs.
of the criminal
Most
code,
common
but can be a
type of
violation of
removal
person's
is
civil
the
rights.
clitoris or the labia minora. This is usually
So this one
performed with
talks
crude
about the Civil
instruments
Rights Act
and without
as far as
anesthesia.
sexual
Could
harassment
you just
in the
imagine?
workplace.
Could you just imagine?
You
I
got
can't imagine. Practiced by
Practiced
various religions
sorry,
and
can't talk
in
today.
multiple different
And
countries.
hostile environment. Read over those two
So
definitions.
female
We'll
genital
discuss-
mutilation
discuss
is
it
the
more,
removal of
on our
external
conference
female
call and
genitalia
on the worksheet.
or injury to the female genital
So
organs.
in this one,
most common
we
type
talk
of
about the
removal
eye of
is
the
the
beholder.
clitoris or the labia
for
minora.
determining if something has harassed.
This is usually
is
performed with
evaluate it
crude
from the eye of the
instruments
beholder,
and without
the person that
anesthesia.
was violated.
You just imagine.
In other
Could you
words,
just imagine?
it's the
I
impact
can't
of
imagine.
the act on the recipient,
Practiced by various religions
not the
and
intention
in
of the
multiple
actor.
different countries.
Unwanted behavior that repeats
So female
after being
genital mutilation is
rebuked
the
is
removal
clearly
of external female genitalia or
Over the next few
injury
slides,
to the
you will
female's genital
see
organs.
common
Most
emotional and
common
physical
type
reactions
of removal
to
is the
workplace sexual
clitoris
violence.
or
I
the
encourage
labia
you
minora.
to take a couple minutes, take some notes.
This is usually
and
performed with crude
really
instruments
look at
and without
how,
anesthesia. You just
workplace,
imagine. Could you just imagine?
school,
I can't imagine.
any kind of sexual
Practiced by
harassment can
various
affect a person.
religions and in multiple different countries.
So sexual harassment
So female
in the
genital
workplace
mutilation
and in
is
school is
the
often
removal
seen
of
as a
external
civil case,
female
not criminal.
genitalia
So this
or
means the standard
injury
of
to the
proof
female
is
genital
different.
organs. Most common
I encourage
type
you,
of
if you
removal
are
is
employed, to
the
look
clitoris
into your company
or the
policy
labia minora.
of sexual
This
harassment,
is usually
but also
performed
look
with
at
crude
state
instruments
and federal
and without
laws.
anesthesia. You just imagine. Could you just imagine?
Variety of
I can't imagine.
circumstances.
Practiced by
So a
various
survivor and
religions
harasser can
and
be any
in
gender,
multiple different countries.
different genders, same genders. Women
So
and
female
men
genital
can be perpetrators.
mutilation is the
The
removal
harasser
of
can also be in a
external
power
female
relationship, such as your
genitalia
supervisor,
or
a teacher, a coach,
injury to the female genital
agent
organs.
of an employer, such as
Most
a peer,
common type of removal is the
coworker,
clitoris
a student peer,
or the
a
labia
customer of a
minora.
business. The
This is
survivor
usually performed with crude
does not have to
instruments
be a person
and
that
without
is
anesthesia.
directly
You
harassed.
just
It can be
imagine.
anyone
Could you just
affected
imagine?
by the offensive
I can't
conduct.
Practiced by various
Unlawful
religions
sexual
and
harassment
in multiple different
may
countries.
occur without economic injury or discharge to the survivor.
So female
the
genital
harasser's conduct
mutilation
must
is
be
the
unwelcome,
removal of external
and
female
pattern
genitalia
must be discernible.
or injury to the female
So,
genital
types of
organs.
sexual harassment.
Most common
Verbal,
type of
this is
removal
profanity.
the clitoris
Uh,
or the
racial
labia
jokes,
minora.
ethnic jokes, sexual
This
comments,
is usually performed
threats,
with
whistling,
crude
barking,
instruments
grunting,
and
growling,
without
starting
anesthesia.
rumors about
You
sexual
just
acts
imagine.
that
Could you
are
just
not
imagine?
true.
I can't imagine.
Sexual comments,
Practiced by various
name-calling,
religions
such as slut
and
or
in
fae.
multiple different countries.
Starting rumors about you making sexual noises at
So
your
female
expense,
genital mutilation
making
is
sexual
the removal of
gestures
external
at you
female
or about
genitalia or
nonverbal,
injury
without
to the
leering,
female
winking,
genital
and licking
organs.
lips.
Most common
Physical
type of
contact,
removal is
we got
the
stoking,
clitoris
grabbing, patting,
or the labia
pinching,
minora.
hugging, cornering or blocking
This is
a
usually
passageway,
performed with
adjusting
crude instruments
women's
and without
clothing without asking
anesthesia.
permission,
You just
touching the
imagine.
breast,
Could you
butt,
just
or other
imagine?
body parts,
I can't imagine.
kissing against your will.
Practiced by various religions
Sexual
and
propositions,
in multiple different
asking you for
countries.
sex repeatedly when you have said no.
So female
Automatic
genital
communication,
mutilation
phone calls,
is the
voicemail,
removal
email,
of
letters, text
external
messages,
female
anything that
genitalia
could be mean or
or
nasty or threatening
injury
in
to the
nature.
female genital organs.
Communication can
Most
also
common
seem flattering
type
or
of
nice,
removal is the
but it's
clitoris
unwanted, and if it makes
or
you
the
feel
labia
uncomfortable,
minora.
that can be considered sexual harassment.
This is usually performed with crude instruments
With
and without
workplace sexual
anesthesia.
violence
You
and
just
school sexual
imagine.
violence.
Could you just imagine?
The victim is
I
not
can't
required to
imagine.
confront the harasser.
Practiced by
If the victim
various
confronts
religions
them,
and in multiple
can help.
different countries.
you know, the victim
So
gets to choose
female
where they
genital
want to
mutilation
confront
is
this
the
person.
removal of
And
external
so they get to
female
choose the setting
genitalia
and the language that they want to
or
use.
injury to the female
And
genital
it also
organs.
gives them a
Most
safe place to have this
common
conversation.
type of removal is the
You know,
clitoris
it's also encouraged that they
or
have
the
witnesses
labia
to this
minora.
conversation. Talking to
This
your
is usually
supervisor
performed with crude
about
instruments
what happened
and
is
without
very, very
anesthesia.
important.
You just imagine.
So
Could you
that way,
just
if any
imagine?
future things
I can't
happen,
imagine.
they are aware.
Practiced by various religions
And then
and
you can
in
also refer
multiple
victims to the
different
Minnesota
countries.
Department of Human Rights.
So female genital
Alright, I know this was a
mutilation
really
is
long
the
section,
removal of external
and you'll
female
have a lot on the
genitalia
worksheet for this one.
or
But I hope you
injury
guys
to the
learned a
female
lot. If you have any
genital
questions,
organs.
definitely
Most
write them down on your
common
worksheets.
type of
But
removal is
also bring
the
them
clitoris
to the conference call.
or the labia minora.
And if you have any questions in
This is
between
usually
there,
performed with crude
definitely feel free
instruments
to reach
and
out.
without anesthesia.
And we'll
You
see
just
ya
imagine.
on the
Could you
next
just
video.
imagine? I can't imagine. Practiced by various religions and in multiple different countries. So, female genital mutilation is the